What are we talking about?
Nanoparticles, forest fires.
It's like, as long as it doesn't hurt my grapes.
Actually, my red grapes lost this year. They were doing great until about mid-August, and then it just started shriveling up. I have no idea why there's rain.
Remember who participated
White
last week?
fire, but the reds are completely, they're shriveling up. They almost look like raisins. So I'm
Nanoparticles.
could have been the heat. It's a tough grow, growing grapes. I don't know. It's really hard.
It's a labor of love. That's why you
Okay.
do it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of the Wethersfield Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First, I'm going to ask the clerk, Commissioner Homicki, if you would please call the roll.
Commissioner Hammer,
Here.
Commissioner Limbruni,
Here.
I'm here. Commissioner Brecklin,
Here.
Commissioner Deane,
Here.
Commissioner Drake,
Here.
Mr. Edwards is not. Commissioner Giaffrido,
Here.
Commissioner Hughes just called, he's has a conflict this evening. Commissioner Urcolini,
Here.
Commissioner Laurie,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
Here.
Okay. We have one public hearing item tonight, and I guess before we get to that, we have, I think, a total of 10 with 3 alternates here tonight. My recollection is at our last meeting, I think, Paul, you participated, so this one would either be Joe or Anna, and I'm, whatever you're, okay, you want to go we go one more with him, and then you'll be next? Okay. All right, so before we start the public hearing, for those of you who may not have been at any of our other meetings, we'll start off by hearing from the applicant. They can present the application, explain what it is that they're seeking. There will then be an opportunity for commission members to ask questions. Then there'll be an opportunity for members of the public to speak. Then the applicant has a chance to respond or add anything in closing. Once we close the public hearing, we cannot hear anything more from either the applicant or the public, so just keep that in mind. If you are speaking as a member of the public or the applicant, we'll ask that you go up to the podium over there, state your name and address for the record. And if you're a member of the public with questions on the application, please direct your comments and questions to the commission, and then we will ask the applicant to respond to those when they come back up. All right, so the one public hearing item is Matthew Accarpio seeking a special permit for an auto detailing business at 274 Wells Road. There's a number of items in the record which I'll just make reference to. One is that we have a memo from Dominic Caruso, planning consultant, to the commission, and he reviews what the applicant is proposing, as well as the standards in our regulations for minor and major home occupations. I think this is under the major category, which is why we're having a public hearing on it. So you should read that, members of the commission, if you haven't already. Then we've got the application, some narrative from the applicant on what it is that he's looking to do. We've also got some public comment. There was something that was just received today. Actually, I guess there are a number of comments that are all on this same filing that we received today, right?
Yes, that was hand delivered today, and it's a neighbor with detailed opposition.
Okay. Go ahead.
He's quoting what was presented at the Zoning Board of Appeals, and he's commenting on that.
Okay.
So that's why there's a series of quotes in there and his take on it.
Just by way of background, Dominic, was there an appeal filed to the Zoning Board of Appeals by the applicant in response to the zoning enforcement order?
Yes.
Was that heard by the Board of Appeals?
Yes, what was heard by the Board of Appeals, the zoning enforcement officer, enforcement officer, upon a complaint, visited and dealt with the applicant because he was performing this business on his site without any permits. And so when he didn't adhere to the zoning enforcement officer's order, he then applied to the zoning board of appeals to appeal the zoning enforcement officer's decision. And the zoning board of appeals upheld the zoning enforcement officer and therefore denied, by doing so, denied the applicant the ability to continue his business. So that's...
Okay, that's what led to this application.
That's correct. As part of my memo, I included the zoning board of appeals minutes of that also.
So basically, all the speakers we see referenced were from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Correct.
Some of them, okay. Why don't I ask the applicant if you could please come up to the podium, identify yourself, and explain what it is that you're seeking to do.
Good evening. I'm Matt Accarpio, so I am the one that lives at 274 Wells Road. I am seeking the special permit. That's to detail cars out of my home. I do it part-time. You know, I have two other jobs. I work at Connecticut School of Broadcasting in Farmington, and I work at Joby Garlics in Newington. So this is something more part-time to, you know, try to just help pay the bills, and it keeps me busy, and it's something that I have a real passion for. Yeah.
Could you give us some background in terms of where do you put the cars that you're working on? Where do you work on them? What days of the week? What hours of the day? How many cars per week? Time of day?
So I do the cars right out of my driveway. So we have 4 cars that are based in our driveway. It's me, 2 are my mother's, and the other is my brother. So we have 4, and I usually try to keep them parked either one on the grass, or I keep them parked alongside the driveway, just because I don't want to, cause any issues with traffic or whatnot. But it's basically just washing and vacuuming cars. That's what I do.
And where are the cars located when you're washing?
They're right on the side of the street. Hours, I just try to keep it that 9 to 5 window. It depends. Could be 4 or 5 days out of the week that I'm outside. Usually, if I'm outside more, there are times when I'm outside more if I'm doing like family or friends' cars, but I'd say so I just got an email from Lynn Rowe, and there was somebody who said there's boats, campers, and stuff like that. So I just wanted to bring that up just because I was reading it all before I got here, and there's nothing like that outside the house. There's no eyesores or anything. It's just our cars. We keep them parked on the side of the street. I try to keep them as close to the house as possible, just because I don't want to cause any traffic or anything, any type of issues.
Just to clarify, just to make sure I followed you. So the 4 family cars, are those in the driveway or on the street?
There are. I park them on the street when I'm cleaning a car, because I clean the car in the driveway.
And how many cars a day do you handle when you?
Oh, no, there's no more than one.
I mean, customer cars a day?
Yeah, just one.
One in the entire day?
Yep.
Do you ever do more than one in a day?
No.
And how long have you been doing this at your house
I've
for?
been doing it for about 4 years now. 4 or 5 years, I'd say.
And how long does it take you generally to
I'd say
to finish
roughly
a car?
It could be, I'd say, up to 4 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 hours.
Okay. Commission members, any questions? Dave?
Is there any reason you can't do this in your garage? I know the washing part.
No, so the garage, it's very small. We can't even barely fit a car in there. Yeah, that's the only reason. I would if I could,
I guess I'm
but,
just trying to think, is
No, no, of
there a
course.
solution to
Yeah.
what you want to do?
yeah, no, I tried, and I even, without even trying to go through the hassle of trying to expand the garage, but I can't fit. And you'd have to, probably waterproof the walls and stuff like that if you wanted to wash, just, think it's stuff like that. But being able to put a car in there and then opening the doors too, it just wouldn't be possible.
Can I just ask you, how do
Yeah.
the cars, what happens to the customer? Do you pick up their car? Do they drop it off?
No, they would drop it off, and nobody stays at the house while doing it. They would get a ride.
Okay.
All right.
Any other, yes, Peter?
I read somewhere in this packet, it was a lot of material, that one person was basically saying that there was noise from vacuuming. Can you
So
describe your
somebody
vacuum?
was, yes, of course. So somebody, I was just reading too, the humming of the vacuum. I don't know who's saying it, and it's just a small shop vacuum. It really doesn't make much noise, and I try to, if I'm doing a vacuuming a car, I try to think of people who, are 4 or 5 houses down. You can't really hear the shop vac. So there was somebody saying, they're trying to log into work and they do hear a humming noise, and they say it's for the whole day. I probably have the vacuum out tops 2-3 hours, Yeah, yeah.
Any other questions, commission members, at this point? Yes.
Yeah,
Tracy?
so I understand you said you do no more than one car in a day for customers. Do you do other cars, though, that might be?
They could be family
causing
friend related, family or friends.
it? Okay, so maybe that's where they're getting the idea that it's going on more than
Yes.
2 or 3 hours, that it's
Yeah.
many
Or even if
cars
it's like
going
our cars too,
on for a
because
customer.
I like to keep our cars in pristine condition. I try to. And it's just the craft. I love the craft, so I'll just clean our cars, you know what I mean? Or I'll clean a friend's car. Hey, can I drop it off? Can you wash it? Can you vacuum it? Sure, I just have that passion for it.
Dave?
Yeah, the zoning board of appeals, reading through everything, it alluded to or said they rejected you, but when I read the meeting notes, it didn't, at the end, it said a motion to close the meeting. What was their vote? I was curious.
Their vote was to uphold the zoning enforcement
That's what-
officers.
okay.
Yeah, that was their vote.
This decision is correct.
Yeah. That was their application, was to, if you don't agree with the zoning enforcement officer, you appeal it to the zoning board of
I
appeals.
just, I read the
Right.
meeting notes, I didn't really see that. So. Yeah, we'll discuss this afterwards, but I have some thoughts on it.
Peter?
Yeah, I have a question, Dom. In your dissertation here, you talked about the minor and major points that you felt were being violated, right? Mm-hmm. The one I'm curious about is the one on parking. Can you describe, we're talking about these cars moving out into the street and then maybe some cars being in the driveway. Can you describe your concern with the parking issue?
Well, those are 3 items that, the standards that are given for the major and minor those are what's written in the zoning regulations.
Right.
I pointed out the 3 standards, the 3 requirements that I feel that this application does not comply with. And the one you're talking about, to quote it, it shall have adequate off-street parking for the home occupation in addition to the dwelling. And what I'm telling you here is that the driveway is only about 20 feet long, and it's about 40 feet long, I'm sorry, and 20 feet wide. 27 feet are on his property. The other 11 feet or whatever is remaining is on town property. So if you theoretically, not theoretically, but, our standard for cars are 9 feet by 19 feet long. So literally, the way we calculate parking, he can physically fit 4 cars on the driveway, but only 2 of those are all on his property. The other 2, overlap onto the city property. So that's, that's why it would not, plus you need the four cars, I believe.
Yes.
That the family has too. And that's,
So-
so this requirement by the zoning regulations is that it's a home occupation. And with the home, it should have enough room to handle any, what is required for the house as well as for the home occupation.
So, not interrupt. So with the cars, I try to keep them parked on the grass. And also, when I have one car in there, I usually typically try to make sure there is also another car. So it's not on the street. I try to make sure it's parked in the driveway, but just not so where, if I'm moving around, I'm not, like opening the doors. Because could I fit 2 cars in the driveway? Yes, but when I'm detailing a car, I try to make sure there's, enough space so I can maneuver around and, not cause any trouble with the other vehicle.
The driveway, again,
So-
the driveway,
if-
it's part of that driveway. is on
I'm just trying to
city
understand your thinking here. So if he has one car in the driveway,
Right.
that's what he's saying, right? And he's working around that car, and then he's moved his other cars on the street, that violates this provision you're saying, because the property cannot accommodate his cars and the cars that he's serving.
Well, it's a parking requirement, it's like any business, as you people know, we have a requirement for X number of parking based upon the business, and that's off-street parking requirement. So, if you have 4 cars generated by the house itself, that in itself, creates possible whatever, but that's not what we're concerned about. The cars that they own, I mean, that goes along with the house and the use of the house. It's that, plus whatever is caused by the business. As he says, he has to move the cars around to do.
Okay, thank you.
Tom, before you go, we all have copies of the full zoning regulations in front of us
Yep.
tonight. I'm just going to
Yep.
suggest people turn to page 41, because there's 4 separate paragraphs of standards for home occupation. So when Dominic cited minor number 3, not involving customers or clients arriving at the dwelling, I think section C is saying we could theoretically waive that requirement, because C is saying the stuff in B up above it can be waived, but the D section, at least appears to me, that those 1 through 8 really can't be waived, and they
correct.
apply to anything. So, Dominic has cited the adequate off-street parking, which he just talked about, but I think it also deals with number 2, it shall be operated entirely within the confines of the dwelling inside, right? Right, so go ahead, Tom, sorry.
Your comments, I think, kind of parallel my concern, which is a kind of a regulatory interpretive question that I posed to Dominic. It's the failure on the part of 352B, number, what is it, number 3, that the home occupation shall not involve customers or clients arriving at the dwelling. And since the occupation falls outside of number 3, that throws then this matter into the need for special use permit, correct? And then the special use permit is further regulated by having all of the standards contained in 352D be in compliance before a special use permit would be granted. And your memorandum states that there are 2 provisions, 2 provisions under D that are outside the scope of compliance for being able to issue the special use permit. Is Am I correct in
Correct.
that interpretation? Thank you.
Does somebody else have their hand up on the commission?
Yeah, I have a few questions.
Go for it.
So, for the family and friends,
Yes.
are they paying you? Are they compensating you in any way for detailing their cars, even though it's the thing you enjoy?
Not really. I mean, sometimes they'll throw me a little bit, but no, not
Okay.
really.
And then, as you, when they're there, do you have like family and friends there when you also have customers there in the driveway? So like how many total
No,
cars
so
do you
usually
actually
if
count?
I'm working on a car, my sister, maybe she'll stop by to come see my dog. My buddy, he'll come stop by just to see what I'm up to or just to talk. But whenever I have a car, because I try to think about the neighborhood in all and trying to keep that, the use of space. So if I'm cleaning the car and I have my car, my mom's car, my brother's car, one's maybe parked at the edge of the driveway and two are parked alongside the street, which is next to the driveway. If somebody comes over, I just try to, keep in mind that, there's these amount of cars here. I'm just trying not to disrupt or, make it seem like it's harder to maneuver around the street. It's just something I am, constantly thinking about because I don't want to, nag people or whatnot.
Thank you.
Of course.
So my other question is in regards to the actual, so thinking of 352D, and adequate off-street parking for the home occupation in addition to the dwelling. So that's saying that there should be enough for all cars at the residence as well as any other customers. Okay. That's off-street. Just wanted to make sure I understood that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Joe.
Are the 4 cars always on the property?
Yes.
And they never leave?
No, they yeah, no, well, yes, but when I'm cleaning a car, my mom's at work, or my brother is.
Right, so it does leave
Yeah,
during the day?
no, they leave during the day, they're not
Yeah,
always there, of course.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, but when I'm cleaning the car, usually we don't always have those cars there. 'Cause, my mom's working, or my brother's out, or he's working,
Gotcha.
all right?
Commission members, yes, Tony.
Wells Road is quite busy. Do you
Yes.
keep any cars on the curb?
No.
Nothing's on the road?
No.
How about when school is emptying out there with all the traffic that comes through?
I tried.
I've received a couple of calls, more
Yeah.
concerned about the
So
traffic.
I'm on Linden Street, so it's on the corner of Wells Road, so it's not like that main drag. But I do see what you're saying though, with trying to keeping traffic to a minimum. But it's a different street, but I try to keep the cars parked as close to the driveway or on the grass as possible. So if people do come by and they're using that street, I just try to make sure cars are parked as close to on the grass as possible.
Have you,
So I do keep it in mind, sorry. Yes.
between the Silas, Deane, and the Berlin Turnpike, there seems like there's an awful lot of other opportunity for you to expand this a little further. I think you sound like you like what you do.
I absolutely love what I do. It's just, I think trying to even find a spot too, and it's more overhead, trying to pay for things too, that's where it becomes difficult.
Okay.
And it's a part-time thing, so it's not like I'd be out there every, second of the day.
Even though we have a little bit of latitude here, and that's why we're here tonight, have you read through the 8 major issues that are part of the regulations that keep this as a pretty rigid discussion?
No, I haven't read through everything.
Okay. That's all I have to ask.
Anybody else on the, yes, Tom?
Another question for Dominic. Let's do a hypothetical here. If the applicant would continue his services as a home occupation, using his home as kind of a base of operations for taking appointments for entities, basically using telephone inside his residence to make appointments, and then he would, to make those appointments for the auto detailing, he would get in his own vehicle with the equipment that he needed and go to his customers' homes and do the work there, say in the driveways of his customers. Would that be considered a minor home occupation, in which case he would not need a special use permit to carry out that business?
That, what you just mentioned, Commissioner, is basically what most, I shouldn't say most, but what is commonly the home occupation type of use. I mean, you have a real estate agent that whatever, that does just paperwork or whatever, and does things like that. And it's not outside. If you notice, one of the prohibitions is doing the work outside. Yes, the answer is yes. He could do that. And he would go to the zoning board of, the only person that he would have to get clearance of, that would be considered a minor activity, and the zoning enforcement officer can issue the permit. He wouldn't have to go before any board or anything. And that's basically what he ended up doing after he was cited. And the zoning board of, the zoning enforcement officer said no, he couldn't sign off because it didn't, the zoning enforcement officer said it wasn't, he could not consider it a home occupation, a minor home occupation, because of the residential, which one was that? Oh, number 2, and, oh no, that's major, I'm sorry. The home occupation shall not involve customers or clients arriving at the dwelling, and that was number 3 on that thing.
So if he was visiting, his customers and doing the work there, the customers are not arriving at his dwelling, he's arriving at their dwelling, performing the service, then leaving, and that then makes him in compliance with all of the standards under the minor standards in the regulations, correct? Right.
And the planning commission, matter of fact, the former planner had said that he, told the zoning enforcement officer basically that he shouldn't even apply to this board because he obviously doesn't, he felt that he obviously didn't meet the requirements of a major.
Peter?
So, based on this discussion, have you considered doing mobile?
I've thought about it, but it's just, I'll be honest with you, doing it out of the house, it's I don't have to spend money to buy a van and worry about electricity and run in water and all that type of stuff.
Understand, but, I mean, if people are doing mobile and are doing this as an occupation, your home becomes the base where you do all your paperwork and stuff, and then you go out there, you wouldn't have any of these issues. And it's something you could consider.
Yeah, no, I understand that. The thing is, if I went mobile, I feel like it would be more of like not as much as a part-time job, but would feel a bit more full-time.
Okay.
I think, yes, Chris?
So, a couple other things. So if you were to go mobile, and you mentioned a van just now, are there any barriers to parking the van in the driveway?
Not one. Not one. I mean, all artisan, plumbers, everybody does that, and there wouldn't be any problem with that.
And then just out of curiosity, I forget if it was from the ZBA interview or something else, but it mentioned the zoning enforcement officer on the first visit asked if you had the permit for operating out of your home, and you said yes. Do you know what permit you thought you had?
I had no idea.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. I was more nervous because I'm here trying to do the right thing, and I had no idea when Charles came by. I just said, yeah, I have everything I need, because I pay taxes, but I had no idea I needed a permit to detail cars out of my driveway. All right, but that's where I said yes, because it was kind of just a in-the-moment thing, and I was nervous. I didn't know what to say, but I didn't know exactly what he meant when he said you have a permit. I didn't know I needed one.
Okay. I'm going to go to public comment at this point, unless there's somebody else with a pressing question right now on the commission. And if not, then what we're going to do is the applicant you could sit for a couple of minutes while the public speaks. Going to ask you to come up one at a time to the microphone, identify yourself by name and address, and we'll hear from you. So we want me to put the gentleman to the right. You had your hand up first, I think.
David Santoro, 187 Church Street. Matthew is my nephew. I think the town has taken up 3 meetings regarding this application. Did they ever consider that it's seasonal? He doesn't do it December. He doesn't do it January. He does it in the summer. At the Zoning Board of Appeals, one of the things I pointed out, and I've been a lifelong resident of Wethersfield, I don't know why zoning is a reactionary enforcement. I drive around town all day. I can point out 25 zoning violations in town. But unless somebody calls it in, the zoning official doesn't do anything about it. A friend of mine had a trailer, camper in the backyard on Broad Street. I think it was a foot or 2 foot below or above the requirement. They had to remove the trailer with the expense of storing it. I drive around town, I see campers the equivalent of trailer trucks parked in yards and no enforcement. And, you know, I appreciate you people being here. You're not getting paid, all right? And when are we going to get standards with zoning? I'd be more than happy, I'm retired, at no charge to the town, all right? And I'll be perfectly honest with you, Charles doesn't move out of the office. I see the blue car parked upstairs. I don't see him driving around town. I'll drive around town and give you a whole list of zoning violations. It'll keep you busy all winter. We have to have standards. We're talking about a seasonable job here. He doesn't create any problem, but apparently somebody didn't like him or what he was doing, and they used it as a form of revenge. And you people have to decide whether that revenge is legitimate or not. He does 1 car a day. I mean, you can drive down Wells Road, you don't even know he's working on it could be his car. And you've taken up all these meetings about this, and by the time, you're going to decide tonight, 2 months from now, it's going to be snowing. Yeah, he's not going to be doing that. I think you got to give some people a break. He's a young kid. He's trying to do something right. He's been before zoning. I went to zoning appeal. I never went to zoning appeal. They explained to us they have no jurisdiction, that they're there to make sure that the enforcement officer didn't violate any rights or did the job right. We all showed up, we spoke, it was useless. I just think we got to have standards. And we got to, if you're going to enforce zoning, do it across the board, not selectively. And that's what the town of Wethersfield does. If somebody's got I was the animal control officer 43 years, part-time. We'd get a complaint about a barking dog. We'd investigate it. We'd look into it. You know what the problem with the barking dog was? The neighbor cut a tree down that he didn't like, having cut down. Zoning is being used as a form of revenge, and that's got to stop. It's got to stop, and Charles has to start doing his job. Thank you.
Thank you.
David? David?
Yes.
A quick question.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for commenting the years that you've given the town.
Thank you.
You've got some good comments and good observations.
Yeah.
Part of the petitions tonight are 29 people who are not in favor of this, as it might be precedent setting.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? What if we gave them 1 car a week for 2 months a year?
One thing I pointed out at the appeals meeting, okay, Charles read off the letters of people who didn't want this, people who wanted it. He got anonymous letters, all right? The courts in the United States won't even honor an anonymous complaint. Zoning does. These are things that have to change. You can't take an anonymous complaint. I could write a complaint tomorrow and not put my name. If I can't put my name on it, it's not worth anything. But Charles had it in his file. There's no reason for that. Somebody's got to sit down and say, listen, this is what we're going to do, okay? You drive around town, all of you. You see camp trailers parked in yards. You see box trucks on Knott Street with siding advertisements on it, all right? Another house on Knott Street, the guy fixes Porsches, all right? He put up a stockade fence, he's got cars on the yard, on the grass. He's got cars in the driveway. He's working on cars in the garage. This poor kid, all he's doing is vacuuming out cars and detailing them.
You do have a good point. I just want to mention is that October 24th at 7 o'clock, we're doing the master plan of conservation development. It's a public session.
Yeah.
And I hope you show up.
Well, I just got out of the hospital with a heart valve replacement. And if I make it through tonight, maybe I'll be there.
Maybe I'll pick you up.
Huh?
Maybe I'll pick you up.
I may need a ride. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mark, Matt's twin. I live at 274 Wells Road, with him as well. There are just a few things that I'd like to point out that some of the complaints that were brought in, the anonymous complaints, one of them was car parking on the street. First and foremost, the cars that are on the street, like we said, we have 4 cars. We have 3 people that live there, 2 of them are my mom's. I'd say about, before even my brother got into detailing, the majority of times my mom would park in the driveway, my brother would too, and I would. So I was in the fire department. I just ended up taking a leave of absence due to just being so busy at work and taking a lot of classes at school. The majority of times I would keep my car on the side of the road because if I was to wake up, my mom has to leave early in the morning, so I try not to park in front of her. Therefore, if I was to park behind her, I wouldn't be able to go to the emergency call because I have those blue lights as well. And I'm just more comfortable driving my own car. So I would park on the side of the road the majority of times. And like I said, it would just help me get to the fire department a lot quicker. And also, I'm cleaning the yard the majority of my brother's working the majority of times from maybe 12 to 4 working on a car, if that. I'm at school now, so there are maybe there's maybe 1-2 cars at the house, because I'm at school from 8 a.m. to 4, and then I work from 4:30 to 10, 11 o'clock at night. So the majority of the time, I'm not home anymore. My mother's at work, so now that's leaving down to 3 cars. The 2 cars is my brother and my mom's. We keep the car on the grass. That is not obstructing the road. The other car would be my brother's car that is on the road. And like I said, he would be able to technically put that car in the driveway and still have space with the car that's on the grass, car that's in the driveway, and the car that he's cleaning, and he would have no obstruction to the road. So that's just something that I'm thinking of. If that was a complaint, we would be able to solve that like that. Like I said, I'm never home anymore. My mom's never home. And my brother's home maybe from 12 to 4. And then, like I said, he also works at his other job. So, like I said, I just think that the parking violation, I completely understand. I've seen many accidents on the side of my road from the fire department side, and I've gone to many extrications. It's a scary thing. But we can completely prevent that, and honestly, there are never really any cars on the side of the road. And if there are, we have a lot of friends that come over. As you can tell, I have a lot of friends here that come over and hang out, and they don't want to park in the driveway. They'd just be blocking the driveway if I have to leave or something. So just something small like that, the roads, obstruction and things like that, I think that's just an overstatement of what people see going on. And my brother's just he's an entrepreneur now at 23 years old, and he's given me the motive to go back to school, and I want to become a doctor now. And him being and having the audacity to start off with really no idea what he wanted to do in life, to going to school, dropping out, going back to school, and then figuring out that he wanted to become a detailer, it's given me the motive to actually do something with my life, and I just wanted to thank him for that. And I want to make a name for myself, and I want him to make a name for himself. And also, he's met so many people that have learned from him and now want to be entrepreneurs from it, and I could list off names. So I think that I understand that there's regulations, but like I said, with the parking, that is something that is easily fixed right now. Like I said, I'm never home. So does anybody have any questions for me? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Accarpio. I'm Matthew's dad. I live at 1260 Farmington Ave. I'm in Berlin. I just like to say that I think everybody's making such a big thing out of this. He's not, I mean, we've said the same thing a bunch of times, but he doesn't have a lot of cars working on one at a time. He doesn't have banners in the yard. His yard is impeccable, that it's always cut. The driveway's clean, the house is clean. It's a nice town, nice piece of property. As far as the cars go, I can understand everybody's concern with traffic and stuff like that, but like they said, there's 4 cars in the family. Anytime you go there, whether he's detailing or not, you may see 3 friends of his, you may see Stevie next door has 2 of his buddies with trucks or something, but whether he's detailing or not, there's going to be friends and family always around, you know what I mean? You can't prevent that. I'll stop by during the day and there's my truck, I mean, but where do you draw the line? What do you do? I mean, the kid's just trying to, like I say, make a name for himself, and I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing for him, being there. I think that within a year, I think he's going to do something. He's going to find a place or buy a place and move on. I think this is just honestly a temporary thing for him to get himself up and rolling. I've been in business 40 years. I'm an electrical contractor. I've lived in Wethersfield here for 30 years. We lived on Round Hill Road. I think it was Mr. Caruso or I'm not sure who mentioned it, but the mobile unit, I can understand it. A lot of people have said that. Problem with mobile is he's got to invest 30, 40 grand into a vehicle. I mean, then, like you said, he has to park the vehicle. Now, let me go back 30 years. When I lived on Round Hill Road, I had a van that said preferred electric on it. I came to meetings upon meetings upon meetings, and my uncle had spoken a few times about it, but, and I was told that I cannot bring my vehicle home. Well, I was just starting business. I didn't have really a place. I just worked out of the house and, back and forth. I had a little barn over in Newington, but, so I had a fight to keep my van there because I was the only guy going on service calls and everything, so I needed the truck there. Well, come to find out, it was somebody that didn't like me because I was doing more work than they were doing. So there you go. There's a letter, there's a complaint, and that's what happened. So luckily, after months of fighting and everything else, I was able to park my truck there, only one vehicle at a time, so on and so forth. But that's the kind of stuff that I don't understand how somebody can just act on something that somebody says, but they're not here talking. If you come show us your concerns, you know what I mean? Don't just write a letter if you're really that worried about it. And the other thing is, where he lives, if you look at the houses, somebody mentioned there was 29 complaints. Is that what was said? So, is that what it was? So 29 complaints. That means there has to be 29 houses in the area that complained about him or that had a complaint, about the vacuum cleaner and everything else. I don't think there's 29 houses that could even hear you starting your car or anything. There's only 5 houses in that area around his house. So I don't know where these complaints are coming. I don't know if it's another detailer that thinks he's doing too good and doesn't like him. I know one of his buddies was mad at him about something. Maybe he made a couple calls. Maybe his father, I don't know. But like I said, if you're going to write a letter, then why don't you come down here and let's discuss it and see what what the real problem is. You know what I mean? But I know you guys, we have all parking bans and you have parking issues and things like that. I understand all that. As far as the 4 cars in the driveway, they've been parking 4 cars in the driveway since they moved there. It's never been a problem. Now you're saying that you can only legally park 2 cars there if you make it a business. Is that what it is? Because of the distance of the driveway?
I think we were just...
It's a physical fact.
Okay, well, physically you could park 4.
Yeah.
But I thought, I might have been confused, but I thought you mentioned that you can only park 2. You can't use the extra space that the city owns.
The regulation for home occupation says you got to have on driveway, on property parking for the residents and...
Okay, so if there's only 2, if there's only 2 cars and they had a car to clean, then he's okay.
Under that one, can I just add, a lot of people have made comments dealing with how does enforcement happen. That's really beyond our scope or where we are tonight, although as a practical matter, we can tell you a lot of times we get applications like this in front of us for a camper or a boat or a whatever, and a lot of times it's the product of an enforcement action having been taken, which a lot of times is the product of somebody in the neighborhood having made a complaint. I'm not up to date on every detail of how the zoning enforcement officer goes about doing things. I think he's got other responsibilities as well that are, in office responsibilities, but I think in many towns, it's just because of staffing and limitations and stuff, it's the complaints that prompt attention really
The
get
squeaky
things
wheel.
going, and I think other things, right, I think so,
Yeah.
but putting that aside, and I do appreciate all the comments that have been made on that, we all do, but what we're sort of dealing with this here as part 2 or part 3 of a process that's already started. Part 1 was the zoning enforcement officer's cease and desist order saying
Right.
you can't do this here. Part 2 was the appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals, which upheld what the zoning enforcement officer did. So our purview now is simply the application that's been submitted for the home occupation and us determining based on the application, the comments that we're hearing, whether it meets the standards of our regs. So our hands are tied in terms of our authority to grant a home occupation. Part of it is a little less black and white in terms of making a determination as to whether there's going to be adverse impacts on the neighborhood. But some of it is a little bit more black and white, some of the regulations that Dominic has cited, the ones that talk about needing the home occupation to be inside the dwelling, for example, or the parking capacity one. So just want you to appreciate we have to go with what the regs say and
Right.
see how the application fits. But so far, I have to say there's been a lot of, I think obviously what the applicant is trying to do and has done is commendable, and we're now in a position of having to ultimately determine whether we can make this work under our regulation and based on what all the public comment and evidence is, basically.
I
So we're
understand.
going to look at it very, very
Yep.
carefully.
I'm not here to fight with you guys. I just want to make a
Yep.
point. I mean, the kid's a good kid,
Understood.
23 years old. He's not on drugs. He's not in,
Yes.
he just does, and it's not a permanent thing. It's something that I know in a year's time, the way he's going and how he's with work and
Yes.
his 3 jobs, that he's going to be moving on. But for now, we just want to make it so the kid can do that. And I understand people don't want trailers. They don't want cars, junks. I understand your property value is very important to you. I mean, I don't want a junkyard next door to me either, The type of business he's doing is washing cars, cleaning. And he's cleaning. He's not adding garbage or tools, or he doesn't need ear guns or compressor, you know what I'm saying? So, but that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to mention a few things and cut it short at that.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
All right, any questions, anybody? And
I just have a quick correction. On the meeting of July 22nd, it was 29 of you in favor, complimenting the applicant.
Oh, I thought there was people that were
29 in
complaining.
favor, but there's,
Well, I'm sorry about that.
it looks like there's just as many against for precedent setting and based on the specific regulations that we were talking about.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, I appreciate that. That's better to hear then. All right, well, thank you very much.
Anybody else in the public? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I'm going to make it very quick. My name is Joseph Accarpio. I live with my father, 1260 Farmington Ave in Berlin. I'm a police officer. I understand rules are rules, regulations are regulations, laws are laws. There's really no way around it. Discretion is a very difficult thing. At the end of the day, I'm going to be the mushy-gushy brother and the mushy-gushy sibling. My brother, he struggled with ADHD, OCD. I mean, he has a list of issues that he struggles with. He doesn't want to explain that, and he won't come up to the public and say that. But his OCD was so bad at one point, to the point where he almost had to be hospitalized. He was constantly cleaning the house, to the point where he'd be up all day and all night, to where my mom would have to pretty much tell him, Matt, you need to go to bed, you have to stop. and it just would not, he wouldn't stop. He had tics. He had to be put on medication. I mean, he was losing his mind to the point where I've seen a lot of people who are emotionally disturbed in my job, and to see him at a point like that in his life, it was very scary on my end as a brother. I was very scared for him. So him cleaning the house was something that he kind of liked. It was his niche. He enjoyed it. Then all of a sudden, he started to cleaning cars. And he took off with that. His OCD, his mental health, everything about him skyrocketed. It was gone. It was like it was just the magic pill for him. I'm not here to try and turn your side and make you guys feel guilty for him. I'm just letting you know the truth about why he does what he does. Sure, he's an entrepreneur. My brother will say that and he'll vouch for that. But I'm here to tell you the reasons why he got into this career path, and it's to help his own mental health and his sanity. I've never seen him so happy. I've never seen him enjoy a job that he does now. And for him, I think he found what he likes to do temporarily. It's not a forever thing, like my dad said. Do I think maybe down the road he may do something else? I don't know. But that's something that I want to speak on behalf of. I think it's very important for you guys as a whole to understand the logistics and the reason why he got to the point that he did. And for this whole zoning thing, I understand the reason behind it, but at the same time, he's had a lot of enemies and a lot of people that are going head to head with him in detailing, and he does this as a part-time job, and people do it as a full-time job, and these people who are doing it as a full-time job aren't making nearly as much money or getting as much clientele because they're just not as nice as him, or they're not doing as well of a job as him. So that's pretty much what I have to say. I appreciate all your time. I appreciate you guys understanding. I think truthfully you guys as a board have had a lot more understanding than the previous people that we've been up against. I see a lot of people actually like shaking their heads like, yeah, I understand where you guys are coming from. Our hands are tied. I understand that. But we're just hoping for you guys to try and make some type of push for us. It may not go our way, and we understand that, but we just need a little bit of support from you guys, and I think we'll be all right. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Any questions? Sorry.
Anybody have questions? No? Good, thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Accarpio. I live at 12 Potter Crossing in Wethersfield. I'm Matthew's older sister. I won't be redundant. I don't really have much to say. I almost just have a question, maybe a silly question, but if we were to get the driveway expanded, would that fix one of the issues with the parking? I don't know if...
Yeah, I guess we need to, we're going to need to deliberate in more detail, but even if you,
Okay.
even if you could fix that one, I think what we're wrestling with is whether, whether we could find compliance and not have issues with any of the other standards that have been discussed.
Okay.
So it's not just the parking, I guess is what I'm trying to
Okay.
say. And I think primarily, the major one, I think, is that the regulation says it shall be operated entirely within the confines of the dwelling. So, the home occupation is typically it's some kind of light office type thing that may not have any customers come to the site. And if customers come to the site, it could be by appointment only with no employees and just the homeowner doing it, an accountant or something with people bringing the papers or whatever. But
Okay.
I appreciate your thought on the parking part of it and that you're trying to be creative here.
He just has such a I just appreciate what he does, and I know he loves it so much. I feel like there's just such little ways that we can work around this.
Right.
They can't bring their car to our house. Can he go pick up the car? Such tiny details.
Right, that's why earlier on, one of the commission members, I think, asked, is it possible that he could do it inside the garage?
Right.
Because that would help to address that issue.
Right.
So.
We could expand the garage, we could expand the driveway, we could, I don't know. I also we don't live on wells. I don't know if you all know that. We live on a side, this is Wells, we live here, our driveway is on Linden Street. My mom has a Corvette, that's her second car, so yes, that is parked primarily on the grass, and then, yeah, Matthew's car's on the side. I just have to kind of repeat that. I know my mom is she wants y'all to know that. I don't know. I'm just, if there's any advice, too, that you can give us, because, I mean, he doesn't want to do mobile detailing, like, I don't know. I'm not even sure. I won't continue. If there's anything that you guys can offer us to help him, I don't know. Yeah. That's all. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I
Yes.
ask her a question?
Yes, Tracy, sure.
So have you guys approached the town with that and said, hey, what can we do?
I'm not sure about that. Have you guys approached the town? I don't.
No? Okay.
He's done is, they told him that he has to come and appeal. We're doing whatever the town tells us.
Yeah.
So we don't really know. That's why, back when he said you have a permit, he goes, yeah, I didn't know what that was.
Right.
But, so we're kind of going by what the town officials tell us to do, so that's why we're here. So.
What would we do to approach the town? What would we say? Just what I kind of just said to expand?
I don't know. I would have to ask defer to the other commissioners who might have more experience, but sometimes that's a good approach too.
And I guess at the end of the day, I think you're probably the only person would be most relevant to the conversation who's not here tonight would be the zoning enforcement officer, coupled with our planner, and the commission. But, because I think it ultimately sort of falls in some respects with all of those named people.
Okay.
Haven't we had similar conversations too before, like, where you can go for questions and coaching? I mean, I would think it would start right with you, right? You can help them out.
As I understand, I'm sorry, is that a question?
No, I was
asking. No, I was going to answer you, but, I mean, I've been a planner for many years, and we, the first reaction on a complaint or something is, and it's strange, I normally ask the person that's complaining, well, have you spoken to your neighbor?
But you can give them advice and coaching on stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I asked Charles about this, the zoning enforcement officer, and, he felt that his hands were tied by the regulations. And when something like that happens, there's always room to amend the regulations. I mean, if and somebody had recommended about the POCD, again, that's coming up, so you can, anyone can make application to amend the regulation, but that,
Yeah, I'll just throw this out there. I don't know that this works on a number of levels, but, in theory, could he apply to the ZBA for a variance? I don't think we have a prohibition on use variances. I'm not 100% sure, but that would be up to the ZBA and a lot of times they're sensitive to neighbor input if there's people who are opposed, and I just don't have any sense of how they might react to something, but that could be worth something considering, at least as another potential avenue.
A variance,
right.
Well, as you know,
right.
A variance, I mean, the discussion that's going on here is really, you're supposed to be looking at the law as comprehensive. In other words, you're not supposed to be looking at one individual. The Zoning Board of Appeals has that right, because that's basically what they're dealing with is that how that particular property fits into the overall scheme, and how that, because of certain instances that's unique to that property, cannot adhere to the zoning regulations. Your role is more on the comprehensive nature, on the whole, how this would affect precedent, or how this, the Zoning Board of Appeals doesn't set precedent, so they don't have to worry about that kind of thing. So I would say a variance is more in line of an application. But I think he was told to make application to this board under that major.
Home occupation, I mean, but is that a, could there be further discussion, Dominic, with you and Charles and the applicant in terms of the potential viability of, applying for a variance as an alternate path? That's something to think
Yeah.
about, and ultimately, we're going to need to decide whether to close the hearing tonight and act on the application, or we could keep it all open. As an example, if you wanted to go have that kind of discussion that I was just suggesting and see what happens, but we got to cover all that ground.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, in reviewing the conversation amongst the members of the commission, the questions have been asked, the responses from the applicant and the members of the public that have testified before us. To me, from the regulatory standard aspect, the application seems to lead us in one clear direction. If we're going to adhere to the regulations, it requires us to go a certain way. On the other hand, I'm very concerned about this individual applicant and his initiative and what this home occupation that he's embarked upon has done for him. That it's essentially not just a sense of income, but it's a matter of therapy that is not only conducive to his overall mental health, but is becoming kind of from at least the testimony of his next of kin, it seems really necessary for him to be able to do this to maintain his overall sense of self-worth, his mental health, etc. And so it seems that there's, in a way, a conflict between our regulations and what our society has decreed should be done or made available to people with disabilities. And I sense this is an issue that has as much to do with disability rights and compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act and other state laws and regulations that have come down over the past 50 years, relating to the obligations that our society has to make sure that people with disabilities have access to the rights and privileges that all other Americans have. And to me, I'm really thrown into a conflict between the black letter law here in terms of land use regulations and the needs and the rights of this young man to be able to maintain himself in a degree of self-worth and mental health that I think is conducive to what we all want to have available to us, as human beings. So it's almost a human rights versus a land use regulation issue. And I may be overstating the matter, but it's an issue of kind of what's in the best interest and welfare of this individual versus what the regulations regarding land use require this commission to do. And I tend to think that the idea of going for a variance where the Board of Zoning Appeals can, I think, have the latitude to make exceptions to the laws to benefit all of society, and including the actual individual that's being affected here, work for everyone. And so I'm not exactly sure if a variance would work, but it seems to be the most likely, avenue of a fair and just decision.
Thanks, Tom. Peter?
Well, Dave had his hand
Sorry,
up.
Dave.
We're gonna deliberate.
Yeah, we haven't finished public comment yet either. I'd like to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just like, let me first of all, I don't think regulations allow us to do this, there's no question in my mind, but we could treat him like we treat guys with campers that say, look, you can't do this, but we can give you 2 years to come up with a plan that says you gotta go somewhere else, or a year, or something like that. You can't do it, but you get 2 years to do what you gotta do to move somewhere, change your business model. And that gives you, but we can deliberate that, but
I think we need to deliberate whether we have the authority to do that or not, based on what the regs say.
Well, that was my question. Do we have the authority, as Dave says, we've done it in other situations, to basically limit his activity to a period? It's not setting a precedence overall. It's given him an opportunity to kind of work it out over a period of time. Can we do that as a body, even though it's written otherwise?
I can't, those examples I don't think involved a specific regulation that was an issue.
I understand that, but I'm asking, can we still do it?
Do the campers.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're gonna have to talk about that.
All right,
Let's-
so
let's-
like that.
I like talking to this, it's really good. I'm all set, but thank you.
Right, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daniel DeBella. I lived in Wethersfield all my life. I graduated in '98. I served on the Marlboro Fire Department for 22 years. I'm a resident of Marlboro. I live at 1077 Silas Highway in Wethersfield currently. I'm a customer of Matt. I've been for over 3 years. And Matt has picked me up at my house, my vehicle, brought it to his property to detail it, and then return it. So he does that. I could speak to that. My Uncle Bill, his name is attorney Dr. William Pepper. He deals with civil rights matters. He represented Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray, amongst others, in the King family. And civil rights is a big problem in this country. And Matt is requiring a special permit. He's asking for an ADA accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's not a question of this board debating if they should do the right thing. They should do the right thing, and they should grant Matt's application. I offered to represent Matt with Advocacy Unlimited and take this to the ADA. And if the ADA gets a complaint, they will come and step on your toes like you've never seen before. We don't want to see that. We want to see this committee do the right and honorable thing. But if Matt does apply an grievance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, they will come in and they will do what they want. Matt has a civil right, civil rights to uphold, and this committee should uphold it and honor our Constitution, our civil rights, and most importantly, Matt's right to do the detailing. He has OCD. He provided this committee a letter. We have yet to see any persons to come up here instead of hiding behind the corners and the sheets in their bed and just making anonymous complaints. He has a right to face his accusers under the Sixth Amendment. He has a right to face every single one of them. You know, and I take this stuff very personally because my uncle and I grew up together and we were very tight. But if this committee denies Matthew's application for a special permit or a variance, this committee will be in direct violation of the ADA. And I will see to it, if Matt wants, to file an ADA complaint against the town of Wethersfield. Like we said, we don't want to do this. We want to be humble. We want to be civil. And most importantly, we just want Matt to do what he loves to do, his passion. Go out and detail cars. His doctor wrote a letter. How hard is that? So it's not a threat. It's his rights. And I want to see Matt do what he loves to do. And I think everyone else here does. If anyone had anything to say, they would speak up here today in front of the board instead of hiding behind their walls. Do you have any questions for me? Anyone?
I do.
Yes, sir.
So curiously, just looking for where in the application it specifically references the request for accommodation, because I was also curious, the doctor's letter is attached to the application, but it doesn't mention.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if that would be normal in the application to mention a specific request for accommodation, because I don't see that in the application.
Well, we can audit it and amend it and put it in there, but Matt is asking for, he can't sit up here and say it, but his brother Joe said it, his uncle Dave, I'm saying it. He's asking for an ADA accommodation from this board. It's not a matter of if we should give it to him, it's a matter that we should. Because he's a person with a disability, with OCD. So if you deny his right under the ADA, this board will be held responsible. And at some point, we're going to be forced to file a grievance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. We don't want to do that. So if we can amend that, sir, that would be fantastic. But he's just asking for an ADA accommodation. Let's respect that. Let's respect that.
Thank you.
Did you answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I'm as a new commissioner, I'm still curious what the actual process would be for that, and also how the existing regulations have already been vetted under the ADA.
Yeah, Chris, I think that's another thing we need to talk to, because frankly, I don't know the answer to how, if at all, the ADA does affect our decision-making on a land use application, and B, what showing, if it did affect our decision, has to be made by the applicant in order to bring that into play. So there's been a number of legal and other issues that are raised tonight that I think we need to look into further, frankly, but appreciate your comments.
Right, and federal law does trump state and local. I know that the states don't want to admit it, but if the ADA says Matt could do detailing in his apartment, there's not a thing anyone in this room could do about it.
I don't know that that's the case. Look, we're trying to do everything we can to make this work, but ADA applies to lots of things: employers, benefits, work accommodations. It gets very complicated, I think, when we're talking about a land use application per se. I in my travels, have not seen the interplay of those two things, and I've been doing land use for 35 years. I think it's something we would need to look into further to understand how it might apply, if at all. I appreciate your comments, and it's certainly something we could look into, but we can't deal with that tonight without some further examination, if it does apply.
That's okay. I mean, you guys have to make a vote, make a decision, but if it comes back no, we're going to file a grievance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and then for 30 years, it will come down to a decision by the federal government, whether this committee likes it or not.
We understand your position. Again, I can't agree or disagree with you specifically, but I do question. Okay. I do question whether our jurisdiction is completely superseded by that, if it would apply, et cetera. So,
I appreciate your help. I appreciate you, and I hope this committee makes the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Sure.
I just want to make sure that Matt filed the permit.
Sure. Yes, please. And if you could just identify yourself again.
Tom Accarpio, Joe's, I'm sorry, I got too many kids. Matt's dad, 1260 Farmington Ave, Berlin, Connecticut. I just have a question, and I lost it now. As far as the application that he did, he spoke with, what was his name? Charles. He spoke with Charles. He went in and met him, and Charles told him that he had the letter and everything, and Charles says, okay, well, this is the application you need to fill out, and so forth. So I don't know, from the sounds of it, is that what you guys have? Do you have the letter with application for, I don't understand ADA or whatever, but
We have an application for home occupation special permit in front of us under our zoning regulations, which allows certain types of quasi-business stuff to occur within a dwelling.
okay, all right. So I just want to make sure that the letter, I'm not understanding a lot of these things, but I want to make sure the letter, oops. I wanted to make sure that the letter was seen and it was part of what Charles told him to do. So I just want to make sure that's all.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? I want to make sure everyone's had a chance to speak if you haven't yet. We've covered everyone in the public.
I have a question.
Question?
Matt, could you back up, please? I personally applaud you for what you're trying to do. Okay, we're in a tough situation here because we have regulations that kind of maybe hamstrung us. We're not even sure. We may have to get additional advice on that. Put that aside. Just simplify things. I mean, there's a lot of going on here, but basically, we can only do certain things based on our regulations. We have some latitude, but we don't have an enormous amount of latitude.
I understand that.
So I want to ask you a question. If this commission would be willing to limit you to continuing this operation for, let's say, 1 or 2 years, under a specific timetable, because it was mentioned it's seasonal, right?
Yeah.
So let's say from June to September, would that be something you could work with?
Sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to understand that.
Understood. No, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. All right, so I think we have to have some discussion among ourselves. I think we have a number of issues that are, somewhat unique that we need to deal with. I think one of them is whether, under section 3.5.2D, the entirely within the confines of the dwelling is something that we have any leeway on or not. Number two, there has been some comment on ADA and how it might relate to these proceedings. And I guess as to both of those things, I'm going to suggest that maybe we try to get some input from our town land use attorney to help us with that. And what I'm thinking is, on a parallel track, could there be maybe some discussion, Dominic, with you and Charles and the applicant to just talk about whether you think a variance application might be a viable route as an alternative to this? Because the difference between Planning and Zoning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals is much of their responsibility is basically bending the regulations or making exceptions from them. That's their jurisdiction, not our jurisdiction. In much more limited, we can flex the regulations a little bit, but not like they can. So that's my thought, is that we twofold try to get some advice from the town attorney, but I would encourage the discussion about the
Need a
variance.
motion on that?
So I think the motion would basically, first off, to just continue
Yeah.
the hearing and
So-
leave open the
Yeah, so
public
Mr. Chairman, I'd
comment.
like to make a motion to continue this meeting.
Can I just ask the applicant a question?
Sure.
Sure.
Did Charles, who advised you to make the application, this particular application?
Charles. So what ended up happening after the cease and desist order, they upheld all that stuff. Charles said, let's go for a variance. I signed and filled out all that, and then he said, we're going to go for a special permit. That's what happened. So I went for the variance application, I signed that, handed it in, and then he said, okay, no, we're going to go for a special permit. He handed back the variance application to me, and I signed for a special permit. That's what I did. I think there was a little confusion, but I did go for a variance. But then he said...
When you say you did not go through with the variance?
No, I did not. I did not go through with it.
Can you talk to Charles about that as well? Okay, so our plan here going forward, I think, is going to be, getting some further input on
Gotcha.
the extent of our authority, but simultaneously further discussion on whether a variance might be a viable route, because if it is,
Gotcha.
that could be a more streamlined
No,
way to go, potentially.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay, I think that, yes.
My comment is, and I have no problem doing it, I think he should do that, but he doesn't have a business now. I mean, is there any,
Doesn't
again,
keep going.
why can't, I'm gonna go back to, why can't we treat this like a camper? Say, we're not allowing you to do this, we're gonna give you a year and a half to 2 years to
'Cause I-
do what you gotta do something else or get your variances in place.
Because I
Is that
think
no
the,
good?
I think the issue is whether D2, where it says it shall be operated entirely
No
within the
question.
building.
That's why I would say no. I would reject
Right,
his
but
application.
I think on all those other situations where we limited things, we did not have a specific regulation that we felt uncomfortable with.
We have lengths of
They- But our regs allow us to grant the special permit for an extra length, and I think what we were simply debating in those situations was, so the neighborhood doesn't have to deal with it forever, let's give them a year or two, give them time to find a new place to keep the camper, et cetera.
So you say D2 doesn't fit that same type of thing?
That's my read of it, right? We have a different issue here, I think, that's involved as well. So I think if there were a motion to just continue the
Yeah.
public hearing, that would,
Yeah, I'd like to continue with a motion to continue this public hearing pending from our town attorney clarification on a couple items that have been discussed. One is the ADA and the other one is, I guess, D2.
some of the requirements of, right,
Yeah,
D2 and so
D2.
forth.
So,
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Tom seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, sorry, Dominic.
No, I was just going to
I can
ask,
clarify for you what the questions
Right.
are. Okay.
and also the fact, do you want me to pursue about the variance?
I think you should
Discuss it, yeah.
speak with Charles, yes.
So that's part.
yeah,
Yes.
that's part of which we'd like to hear about next time. Is a variance a viable path, or is the fact that there's no clear, what do they call it, hardship here, that it would be a dead path? So if it's a dead path, we need to know that.
I also just like to add, I was checking my notes on something, I don't know if I affirmatively also voted in the motion, but also, out of curiosity, I believe, we can add conditions to a special permit, but can we add conditions to a variance? In the same way that we can a special permit? Like, well, we don't do a variance.
No,
like
we don't do a
ZBA
variance,
does.
no.
But I mean, like, when a variance goes through, do you have as much leeway in limiting a variance? Because my understanding was that a variance is forever.
Yeah, I mean, technically, it gets into a little bit of a gray area in terms of time limits, I think, but I think the ZBA probably does include conditions, and whether a time limit is one of them. I don't know if they've done that in Wethersfield in the past or not, but that's a good question.
I do have a question.
Yes.
In the meantime, is he still allowed to continue doing this while this gets,
I think that's really
I mean, can
an
we
issue
allow
for the
him?
zoning
Or-
enforcement officer. I think a lot of times, there may be the ability to do that while you're going through the appeal process to the zoning board of appeals, but once that ended with the upholding of the zoning enforcement officer's order, I don't know that you have the ability to keep going.
for his health and well-being, to allow him to do this?
The zoning enforcement officer has allowed him to continue.
Oh, he has, okay.
Yeah.
Has allowed him
I thought
until,
it was a cease and desist, but you say they're allowing you to do it?
He came to my house personally.
Okay, good.
as long as there's an appeal going on,
Well, and he's got an
I asked
application
him-
pending here.
So he can work tomorrow.
Yeah, see, that makes sense, but you stop in October anyway, you said, right? Right around there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is Dominic will reach out to you just to tell you where we are, because I don't know that we're gonna be able to get the answers we need on all these questions by the time of our next meeting or not. When is our next meeting? Is on
The 17th.
16th, right? 17th, because of the holiday.
16th, yeah.
Okay, so if we don't, then our next meeting after that would be what, November?
October 1.
Oh, October, okay. Okay, so Dominic will keep you
Gotcha.
posted in terms of when we're back and whether he learns anything from
Okay.
Charles.
All right. Guys, thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. All right.
Good.
I'm going to be,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
I might not be here for the next
Okay.
2 weeks. just to let you
Okay.
know. But
We'll figure it out.
This
yeah,
was
we'll
one for
figure
the
it out.
books.
Okay, so that's all we're doing tonight, but.
Oh, I do too.
Continue.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I read that, I was like, that's a dead duck right there. Yeah.
Okay.
The attorney gives us a way.
2 times, coming to the meeting. Stay healthy. Stay healthy.
Well, there's got to be, some way.
I'll be here.
Still in session.
I'm just not, I can raise the issues with regards to handicap accessibility.
All right, so,
It's been a long time since I've been here.
moving along here, other business, I don't think we have other business. We got the minutes of August 20th. Would someone like to make a motion?
Oh, I totally agree. That's what I said to Peter. When I saw the
Can
medical
we
thing,
just,
I said,
We'll go
I know
back to
we
what we're
tabled,
asking for.
yeah.
Sure.
So, because, I have
Okay.
to word this.
So just to clarify,
Guys,
I didn't see it.
just to clarify what we're asking the town attorney for, I think number one is going to be, do we have the discretion under 3.5.2 to forgive any of the requirements under section D? And I guess specifically it would be that, it would be
It's the
number
out- it's
4,
the outside,
D4, have
yeah.
adequate off-street
No, it's the outside.
parking for the home occupation in addition to the dwelling, and also number 2,
Right.
that it shall be operated entirely within the confines of the building. So number 2 on the inside the building, and number 4 on the off-street parking sufficient for the home occupation as well as the dwelling.
It's the two major ones,
these two.
Tom, that you identified.
D2 and D4.
4, yeah, okay,
Okay?
okay. D2 and 4.
So basically, the question to me is, just like under the B
Oh, yeah.
things, we have
Right.
the ability to vary those.
Right.
Do we with any of the D
Yeah.
items?
Those are ones.
Right, and then I guess the second part of it is just going to be some input on whether ADA would potentially have any applicability to a zoning application such as this, and if it did, what showing would have to be made by an applicant? Does there need to be a doctor's letter? What does it need to say, et cetera? So I think it would be those primary points.
What stops this from a guy being a full-fledged mechanic in his driveway?
No,
Yeah.
that's,
I think we should,
That's
we
what I
we
said.
should,
that's the regulation.
yeah, so I think we should get the guidance on those two things, and then I think the third part of it, Dominic, was that you just talk with Charles more about whether the variance is an option. But I think, so we've clarified that, and I think we should move on without any further discussion of that matter at this point, since we've continued the hearing. Minutes, August 20th, 24. Anybody have any corrections, or would you like to make a motion?
A motion to approve the minutes for August 2024.
Is there a second?
Peter, right?
Sorry.
I'll second.
I'm saying
Thank
that
you.
out loud.
All right, any,
Peter made the motion.
any comments? They're looking good, time? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anybody abstaining?
One abstention.
Chris? Okay. All right, and I guess we got to knock, we have to just make sure the vote involved 9 people voting, Dominic?
Yeah,
So, I think Joe was the voting alternate on this one.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I see there's some upcoming items on here. Could you just, are those all going to be ready for the very next meeting? And is there any time urgency associated with them? And I'm asking in part because it sounds like you may not be here at the next meeting.
Yeah, well, I didn't think I was going to be here today.
Right.
But, yeah, they've already been advertised, the public hearings, so.
And are you going to have an opportunity to do memos on
Probably.
both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably, if not, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
These are
gonna,
these are the two signs, right?
what's that?
The two sign requests?
Two sign
Signs,
applications,
One
yeah.
and 6-2?
Yeah.
I've been working on that and I can
Yep.
work on it, yeah.
All right. Anything else on your end, Dominic?
Yeah, there is, I shuffled all these papers around here. Hold on for a second. Yeah, here we go. Let's see, next meeting in person. Oh, the next meeting is gonna be, in person only. No, it won't be streamed because, as the people who were at the POCD meeting, this room is going to be, the audio and there are going to be improvements being done in this room, so we won't be able to have any like electronic stuff going on, and so it won't be streamed.
So is that just for some brief period of
It's
time?
just next meeting.
And we're not going to be physically in here as well?
I think you are. I think, I know what
Fred said
today, but I don't know that he knew that. So you might not be physically here, but it will only be, no audio, no recording, no overhead screen, and due to audio upgrades is happening.
You said it would be for up to a 2-week period, and the equipment's over 20 years old plus.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a major overhaul, a major upgrade.
But anyway, from our standpoint, it's just a matter of that, you won't have the screen come down and it's not gonna be, it won't be streamed.
Won't be on television.
But it will be recorded for,
We will record it like we recorded downstairs last meeting, one of the regular type recorders. Yeah, and then, what else do I have? Oh, I advised Lynn, our clerical person, to get everyone a new copy of the regulations.
Perfect.
I mean,
And thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Very
That's
good.
very
Great.
helpful.
I
to
mean, November, these were printed in November of '23. The ones you had, because I still have them, the ones that, those were prior to April of '20. So anyway, so those are the latest. They include all the updates and everything in there. So you can go online and that's what you will find, the new one online. But I still go. I like the books, but anyway. So that I wanted to make sure you got that. And the COG, the CROG, is having a public hearing on September 19th. Oh, and that was included in your package too. Public hearing on their POCD, on the CROG's POCD.
Did anybody get a chance to read that yet? It was like something done 15 years ago.
I haven't read that one.
Get chance, it's like, I've never seen anything so old. I don't know, I could be wrong, but
I'm not going to comment on that.
Maybe that's why they're having a public hearing on it.
Mr. Chairman and council, and committee member, and commission members, that's it for me.
So public comments on general matters of planning and zoning?
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walcott Hill Road. That was quite a meeting there tonight. I'll try to keep it somewhat brief. At the last town council meeting, it was announced that there's going to be a farm stand up on Highland Street. And I had asked, what's the process for that? I thought it would come here to planning and zoning. I'll give you a little background. I think there's 3 people, Mr. Hammer, Mr. Homicki, and Mr. Deane, Mr. Drake also. March 2009, Peter Gillespie reported that there's an effort to start a farmer's market in the spring. He said the site will be at Keeney Center, and there are no provisions in the town regulations for such an activity. And he wanted to know how to proceed, whether it would be at planning and zoning, or should he go to the town council. Commissioner Jurasin recommended that there be a public hearing for this activity. And April 7th, 2009, application 165609Z, Town of Wethersfield seeking a special permit from a farmer's market as an accessory use at 200 Main Street. And that was approved unanimously. It had a one-year term on it. April 6th, 2010, another public hearing, 1695. Oh, I'm sorry, wrong page. 1696, Wethersfield Farmers Market, seeking a special permit for a farmer's market at 200 Main Street, renewal of application 1656. Unanimously approved. Again. April 17th, 2012, application 1783, Town of Wethersfield seeking a site development plan for seasonal farmers market at 220 Hartford Avenue, Solomon Wells House. Unanimously approved. Town manager says that he has the authority to allow this farmers market in a residential zone, which is Keisha Farm. It's a residential zone. It has a, by right, ability to have a farm stand, providing the product is produced at that farm. That's in the regs. Town manager cited Section 3.2C1, permitted permissible uses in residential zones. C1 is for open space uses, and he cited public or private park or open space. This is permitted in that zone. It doesn't have anything to do with farmer's market, farm stand. So here we have I guess it's a nonprofit that is seeking to operate a commercial operation, sale, farmer's market, or farm stand, I keep saying market, apologize, where they're going to have another entity come in and have produce available for the public to purchase. The town doesn't get any money for it. This nonprofit gets the money. And to me, it's just circumventing all the regulations that we have in town. It's kind of what the previous applicant was alluding to. It's like you have a set of rules. Some people have to follow them, but not everyone. And I find it very frustrating. There's a lot of work's gone into these zoning regulations, and you guys do a fantastic job of trying to figure out how to fit the different pieces in. And I just feel that, you know, it shouldn't be preferential treatment to certain parties. And that's what's going on here. Someone thought it was a good idea to have this farm stand there. And that's all well and good, but they can file an application, they can publish a legal notice, they can have a public hearing, and you guys can vote unanimous, go ahead and do it. But to just circumvent all those steps and say, some people came in, they had an idea, let's run with it, I don't think it's right. So I don't know who to address, that's why I'm here tonight. But I think, part of it, you're caught in an awkward situation where you didn't have a town planner. I'm not sure if Mr. Caruso was involved with this part of it, but, there was gaps in there, so that may have contributed to some of this. There's also some new folks on the commission that are just learning the way things are done. That may have also been a contributing factor. So I don't know where you can go with this, but I would hope that someone would ask the questions and come back with an answer to the public and saying, yeah, we made a mistake, we're going to make it right, applicant can put a request in, and, I can remember years ago, a relative of mine wanted to sell hot dogs at the Cove, with a cart. He had to come here. He had to get approval. You got the Slipaway Tours that operates out of the Cove. It's not his property. It's town property. He came there, sold his idea. Here's some regulations, here's some guidelines, when you can do this, you can do that. It gets approved. It's all above board. But just to come in and slip it in and have a member of the public come up to the podium and say, oh, thanks for allowing this. This is going to be great. We can sell vegetables up on Highland Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like no other public comment, since we have no one else in the audience. Is there any correspondence, Dominic?
No.
No correspondence?
Are we going to address this question at all that Tom brought up?
I'm just looking at accessory uses and structures under section B, and this is the first I heard of this.
I haven't heard.
I'd like to know if he's got a legitimate point, or not.
This states in these zones, and I don't know what zone it is, but temporary farm stands for the sale of products grown on the premises. So this wasn't on
There's been a farm
premises.
stand there for 50 years, just so when the town bought it, went away. Yeah. So it's not a problem being there, but I think he's complaining someone needs to ask.
Yeah, but
for a
that was
permit.
grown there.
That was
What?
grown there.
That was grown.
No, I understand, that's why I
Yeah.
say someone has to do a permit. But
No, I understand.
I think this thing is, he did say it was a nonprofit, though. Does anybody have any idea who that would be? A nonprofit?
Cassia Farm
Someone's
is a
coming in and selling
nonprofit.
vegetables.
But
I think that Cassia Farm group is a nonprofit.
Oh, we don't know who
What
it
group is a
I mean, He's
nonprofit?
absolutely right, someone should have to go through the permit
But-
process.
But Keisha Farm is town property,
What?
correct? Keisha Farm is town property.
It is.
And in general, doesn't the town manager have sort of deference and authority over town property?
I don't think so. I don't know, maybe.
I mean,
I
who-
can't imagine why.
Yeah, well, the town is still, my understanding of it, and boy, it's small, so understanding, the town can't just do what it wants. Like, it can't, like, put up an amusement park.
You can't put a soccer field in there, right?
Yeah, honestly, my issue with it, just hearing it, is
Yeah, I mean-
at first it seems like a great idea, but how about Anderson Farms, that's been a business in town for God knows how long, and now you kind of undercut the poor guys, right? To me, that's
Actually, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I
well, Anderson's gonna do it.
Anderson Farms.
Then they should make all of that clear, that it supports the community, blah, blah, blah. So the fact that Tom's one, it should go here.
I also think in general, we
I
need
would-
more information than one
if we need a
person's
hearing.
perspective
Well, I think
on
we can,
this.
I think that we could, I got to believe that there was some type of analysis of this previously, so I think we could certainly try to find out what that is. And I guess I'm just looking also at the accessory use
I think it was-
regulations, and there is one that says other accessory uses customarily incidental to a permitted use. I don't know if that's considered an open space use or a town municipal use, and whether someone might conclude that that accessory customarily to have that would be within the scope. So I think the first thing is we could just inquire
Yeah,
as to
I
what
think
they looked at and who they
if,
spoke to.
He said
Fred-
it was at the
If Fred made
town
this
council.
decision, obviously he must have researched it, so
Right.
we just need to know back,
they looked
does he have a legitimate point or not?
Okay,
That's-
but I don't know exactly what was said, and,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
I mean, I can check with the town
That's fine.
council, because did I hear him correctly and say that at the town council meeting?
Yeah, it happened last
they-
night, Tom.
Oh, okay.
It happened, like, I was there, it happened.
Okay.
Keith Farms got up and he thanked for, hey, it's gonna be great, we're gonna have a market, farm stand up there on Keisha Farms. And that's where everybody learned it last night.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think, Dominic, it's really just that a question was raised during public comment at our meeting, asking, what analysis was done to confirm that they could do that without the need for any type of application to us. We'd just like to know the answer to
Mr.
that.
Mazzarella referenced 3-2-1C. So I think that's what I heard him say anyway.
I got 3.2.C1.
Yeah, and I'm looking at 4.1B, table number 2 on page 52. Also says the same thing there too, if it's an agricultural zone, which I believe it is.
4.1.
Page 52.
Mr. Caruso has nothing else to do. We can add this to his list.
Come out of retirement again.
I've shown up 3 times here.
That's right.
This is my third stint here. 3's a charm, is that right? But, I don't
You are a charm.
Or three strikes and you're out. And no, I'm only teasing. but-
Yes. All right, so before we
Yeah,
close,
you're right.
before we close the hearing, Peter wants to give an update on the plan of, comprehensive plan of development that's in the
We
works.
met this evening, we had a face-to-face with the consultant. A few of us were here in the other room. And just briefly, the survey is out. They had one event at the past Porch Fest, where they had people come in and they tagged things that they like about the town, things they don't like about the town. As far as the survey, Tracy, I don't remember, 52 people? Tony, do you remember? Something like that? Not a huge, event right now, but we hope to get in the thousands. Some of the towns can get a couple, 3,000. So if we can get something like that, it would be great. So there's a lot of activity going on to promote, get out there, do a survey. There's a little sheet here that I'd like to pass out to everybody. It talks about what we're doing, what the vision is, and there's a hashtag there. You can just use that on the phone, or you can go on a computer, and it allows you to get in and take the survey if you haven't taken it. So,
Has anybody done the survey yet?
No, I had
I
Is
think
it possible
you'll-
to get a digital copy of this so we can, I'm happy to share
Or
it
just the
on
QR.
local groups and
The
stuff.
QR.
Yeah, here's,
there's a
it
QR
has
code.
the
You could
access.
PDF it to people, put it on your Facebook, whatever works for you. Pass it to friends and family. Yep.
I've got one.
So I think it would be helpful if we could just promote this, since it's really to our benefit to do so.
So the QR code takes you right to the survey?
Yeah.
Survey one? Okay.
Is there enough there? I don't know.
I think the consultant, Peter's doing a good job. We're at the Porch Fest, we're going to be at the Corn Fest. Starting out slowly, this will continue with the survey going right through November. So please present it to the people you know on other boards and commissions, your neighbors, family, people in the neighborhood and all. And it's a consultant that I think is doing a really good job. It's 2 specific processes. The Plan of Conservation Development is with the FAI group, and then there's affiliate group with them on the affordable and housing agenda items that'll come through right through the winter months into the spring, I think. So it's a slow-moving process, and in concert with that, I just wanted to compliment a salute to businesses coming up. I think that's on October 2nd at 5:30 at the river, and as a compliment to our former colleague George Oracle, who's going to be getting the Betty Rosania Award. George gave us, 45 to 50 years on planning and zoning, and
Bless you.
hope we'll all continue.
And when is,
What's the date on
when
that?
is it? At the river?
Tony, what was the date on that again?
And it's,
I think it's October 2nd at 5:30 at the river.
it is October 2nd,
Yep.
and it's at 5 o'clock.
Do we need
Get that
5
from the
o'clock?
EDIC website, I think, and maybe
Yeah.
the chamber also has that on there too.
5, I thought, 5 PM?
I think it's 5
5:30.
p.m. but
Five.
Look on the website. I think tickets were $40.
I can find it on the website.
I've attended before, Peter gave a speech last year, and it's a really well-presented evening.
You said 5
I
o'clock?
thought it was 5 o'clock,
It's in the evening, not in the morning
a
this time.
Wednesday evening.
Okay.
That's what I have here. I mean, I could be wrong. I think it states 5 o'clock on its own, so
Salute to business.
I can find out for you,
Okay.
definitely give you an answer.
I gotta sign some stuff.
Yeah, it says October 2nd, 5:30 on the Salute to Business website for Great Elms.
Great Elm, okay, that's what I saw.
So just a quick process check on this. Surveys come in, public workshop, all that information goes into the hopper, the committee meets, and then a report will come out in, what's the end date?
Probably November,
Oh, so
earliest.
fast. That's
Yeah,
fast, okay.
yeah. I think they want to finish everything by the end of October. There's going to be some public meetings as well. And they're doing special meetings, targeted meetings with groups of people as well.
There's one big one.
Yeah, that's,
All right, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
A second, anyone? Peter, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstain? All right.
Yeah.